Hi everybody, this is your narrator Ali, and I hope you are ready to relax to our story today. Tonight we ride into a kingdom of 7 princes, a land where a giant can turn lovers to stone with a glance, and where a quiet youngest son named Boots must follow ravens, wolves, and salmon to find a heart hidden inside an egg at the end of the world. Let the day's noise fall away now, and step with me into this old tale. Chapter 1. 7 Sons and a Father's Sorrow. Once upon a time there was a king with 7 sons, and he loved them with a love so fierce that he could hardly bear to have them out of his sight. Yet princes must grow, and when they came to manhood, it was time for them to seek brides of their own rank. The king arranged that 6 of the princes should ride out into the world to woo, while the youngest, whom everyone called Boots, would remain at home to keep his father company. The 6 elder brothers were to find suitable princesses, not only for themselves, but for Boots as well. The king dressed them in garments that shone like morning on fresh snow, each seam glittering with gold thread and jewels. Their horses were the finest in the realm, sleek beasts that tossed their manes and rang their hooves proudly on the stones of the courtyard. With blessings and farewells, the 6 princes rode out, promising to bring home not only their own brides, but a 7th princess for Boots. They traveled far, visiting many palaces, feasting in many great halls, and seeing more princesses than they could easily remember. At last they came to a king who had 6 daughters, each more lovely than the last, eyes bright as stars, hair like rivers of gold or streams of night. The princes fell in love almost at first glance. There and then they began to woo. Before long, each prince had gained a princess's favor, and the 6 couples set out for home, laughing, singing, hearts full and light. But the 6 had given too much of themselves to love and too little to duty. As they rode along, speaking softly to their sweethearts, they forgot entirely the promise they had made to their father and to Boots. No 7th princess rode among them. Boots's bride was forgotten, as though she had never been spoken of. Their road took them past a steep hillside, so sheer and smooth it might have been a wall of stone. Halfway up the slope, hidden until one came very near, stood the house of a giant. As the 6 princes and their betrothed passed below, the giant came out. He looked down upon them with eyes like coals, and in a single glance turned them all to stone, princes and princesses, horses and saddles, the very laughter on their lips frozen forever. Back in his palace, the king waited. Days lengthened into weeks, weeks into months. No riders appeared on the horizon, no news came at all. His heart grew heavy. "If I had not you left," he said at last to Boots, "I would give up living, so deep is my sorrow for your brother's loss." Boots listened quietly. "Father," he said, "I have been thinking that perhaps I should seek them. Let me go and find my brothers, or learn at least what has become of them." "No, no," the king replied. "I have lost 6 sons already. I cannot risk the 7th. If you ride out, you may never return." Yet Boots's heart was set on this. He begged and reasoned day after day, until at last the king, in tears, gave him leave to go. He had no fine horse left to mount. Those had been taken by the elder sons. All that remained was an old, broken-down nag, bones showing under its dull hide. Boots only smiled. "A poor steed will do if the will is strong," he said. "Farewell, father. Do not lose hope. With God's grace, I shall bring my brothers back with me." He saddled the old horse, patted its neck, and rode away. Chapter 2. Raven, Salmon, and Wolf Boots had not ridden far when he saw a raven lying in the road, wings flapping weakly. The poor bird was so starved it could hardly lift itself. "Dear friend," croaked the raven, "give me a little food, and I will help you in your greatest need." Boots looked in his pack. He did not have much, only a small store of bread and cheese, but he could not ride past those dim, hungry eyes. "I do not see how you, poor bird, can help me," he said, "but I can spare a little. You clearly need it more than I." He broke off a portion of his food and set it before the raven, which ate gratefully and promised again that it would not forget him. Boots rode on. After some time, he came to a brook. There, floundering in the shallows, lay a great salmon. It had leaped too far and stranded itself on a dry stone. The fish thrashed and gasped, unable to reach the deeper water again. "Dear friend," said the salmon in a voice like the whisper of water, "push me back into the stream, and I will help you in your utmost need." "The help I get from you will not be great, I dare say," Boots answered, "but it is a pity to see you choke." He stooped, heaved the heavy fish, and slid it into the flowing water. The salmon vanished with a swirl of its tail. Boots went on. Toward evening, he met a wolf coming slowly along the road, so lean that the wind seemed to whistle through its ribs. Its tongue lolling, it crawled more than walked. "Dear friend," the wolf said, "let me have your horse. I am so hungry I have not eaten for 2 years. The wind passes through me as though I were a bundle of dry sticks." "No," Boots said firmly. "First I gave food to a raven. Next I helped a salmon back to the stream. If I give you my horse as well, I shall be left on my own 2 feet with nothing to ride." "Yet you can help me," said the wolf. "You may ride on my back instead. I will bear you swiftly, and I will help you in your greatest need." Boots looked at his sorry old nag, then at the wolf's hollow eyes. "Well," he sighed, "I do not expect much help from you either, but if you are in such need, you may have the horse." The wolf fell upon the poor steed and devoured it until its strength returned. Then Boots took the bridle and bit, placed them gently in the wolf's jaws, and laid the saddle on its back. Filled now with food, the wolf became strong as a storm wind. He set off with Boots on his back, running so swiftly that trees and stones blurred past. Never in his life had Boots ridden so fast. "When we have gone a little farther," the wolf said, "you shall see the giant's house." Chapter 3. Stone Brothers and a Hidden Heart. They traveled until the ground rose steep beside them like a wall. There, set into the hill, stood the giant's house, grim and heavy. "Here is the giant's dwelling," said the wolf. "Look, you can see your 6 brothers standing turned to stone and their 6 brides beside them. The giant has done this. There is the door. Through it you must pass." Boots trembled. "I dare not go in," he said. "The giant will surely kill me." "No," replied the wolf. "When you enter, you will find a princess inside. She will tell you what to do to end the giant's life. Only be sure to do exactly as she says." Taking a deep breath, Boots slid from the wolf's back and walked to the door. His heart pounded as he stepped inside. The giant was away, but in one of the rooms sat a princess, weaving. She was so beautiful that Boots could do little but stare. "Heaven help you! From where have you come?" she cried when she saw him. "Your coming here will be your death. No one can kill the giant who lives here, for he has no heart in his body." "Well," Boots said softly, "since I am here, I may as well try. I wish to free my brothers, who stand turned to stone outside, and you as well, if fate is kind." She studied his face and saw that he meant it. "If you must, you must," she said. "Let us see if we cannot find a way. Creep under the bed and lie there as still as a mouse. Listen carefully to what the giant and I say tonight." Boots squeezed himself under the bed. He had hardly settled when heavy footsteps shook the house. The giant came in, towering, his presence filling the room like thunder. He sniffed the air. "What stench of Christian blood is this?" he roared. "I know what you smell," the princess answered calmly. "A magpie flew over the chimney with a man's bone and dropped it. I hurried to throw it out, but the odor lingers." The giant grumbled but let the matter rest. Night came and they lay down. After they had lain in silence for a while, the princess spoke shyly. "There is something I wish to ask you, if I dared." "What is that?" the giant asked. "I have often wondered," she said, "where you keep your heart, since you do not carry it in your breast like other folk." "That is no concern of yours," the giant replied. "Yet it lies beneath the threshold stone at the door." Under the bed, Boots smiled to himself. "So," he thought, "we shall see what we shall see." Chapter 4. Flowers, Lies, and the Faraway Lake. At dawn, the giant strode off to the forest as usual. As soon as he was out of sight, Boots and the princess pried up the doorsill and dug beneath it, seeking the heart. They dug until their hands were sore, but found nothing. "He has tricked us," the princess said. "Still, we will try again." They put the threshold back, swept away the dirt, and strewed flowers over the stone. When evening approached, Boots crawled under the bed once more. The giant returned, sniffing suspiciously. "My eyes and limbs, what a smell of Christian blood! Who is here?" he growled. "Ah," the princess said again, "a magpie flew over the chimney with a man's bone. I threw it out as quickly as I could, but the smell does not leave so fast." The giant muttered, then noticed the flowers on the threshold. "Who decorated the doorsill?" he asked. "I did," the princess replied. "I am so fond of you that I could not help laying flowers where your heart lies." "Foolish girl," the giant said, "my heart is not there at all." That night, when they were in bed, she pressed him again, with soft words, to say where his heart truly lay. "Oh, very well," he grunted at last. "It lies in that cupboard against the wall." Boots and the princess rose early and tore apart the cupboard, searching every shelf, every hidden space. They found no heart. "We must try once more," she said, though her brow was drawn with worry. They gathered more flowers and garlands, dressing the cupboard as if for a festival. When the giant came home and smelled Christian blood yet again, the princess soothed him with the same story of the magpie. He let the matter rest, but his eyes fell on the cupboard wreathed in blossoms. "Who has made such foolish decoration?" he demanded. "I have," the princess answered. "I could not help it. So great is my love for you, knowing that your heart lies there." The giant snorted. "How can you believe such nonsense? Read it. You will never come where my heart is." "But it would please me so to know," she insisted gently. "You are cruel to keep such a secret from one who loves you." At last, worn down by her coaxing and his own vanity, the giant gave in. "Very well," he said. "Far away in a distant lake, there lies an island. On that island stands a church. In that church is a well. In that well swims a duck. In that duck there is an egg, and in that egg lies my heart." He laughed as he said it, thinking she could never reach so far. But under the bed Boots heard every word. Chapter 5. Journey to the Island Church. Next morning, as soon as it was gray dawn, the giant went off to the forest. Boots stepped from his hiding place. "Now I must go too," he said. "The road may be long, and I do not know the way." He took a long farewell of the princess. There was real feeling between them now, born of danger shared. "May all good powers guard you," she whispered. When he stepped outside, the wolf stood waiting. Boots told him everything about the threshold and the cupboard, about the island, church, well, duck, and egg. "I must go to that well," he concluded, "if only I can find the way." "Jump on my back," said the wolf. "I know the path, though it is long, and I will carry you." Boots climbed on. The wolf set off, faster than before. Wind whistled past them as they flew over fields and hedges, over hills and valleys, day after day. They did not rest until at last they came to the shore of a great lake. There Boots hesitated. "How shall we cross this?" he asked. "I can neither swim so far nor build a boat." "Do not fear," the wolf answered. "Hold fast." He leaped into the lake, Boots clinging to his back, and swam strongly. Waves rose and fell, but the wolf cut through them like a ship. Soon they reached the island. On it stood an old church of gray stone, its door closed, its windows dark. The key to the church hung high on the tower, far above Boots's reach. "You must call on the raven," said the wolf. Boots called, and in a moment a shadow passed across the sky. The raven he had fed by the roadside swooped down, circled once, then flew up to the tower. With a quick twist of its beak, it dislodged the heavy key and let it fall into Boots's hands. Boots thanked the bird and went to the church door. Inside, the air was cool and still. He walked down the narrow aisle until he came to a small stone well. Within it swam a duck, just as the giant had described, gliding back and forth across the dark water. Boots knelt and spoke softly, coaxing the duck. At last it paddled close enough for him to catch it. He lifted it out, but as he raised it, the bird gave a sudden flutter and dropped an egg from its beak into the well. The egg sank out of sight. Boots stared in dismay. "How shall I ever retrieve it?" he cried. "You must call on the salmon," said the wolf, who had padded quietly into the church behind him. Boots called, and the salmon he had pushed back into the brook answered his plea. It rose from the depths of the well, the egg held carefully in its mouth, and laid it in Boots's hand. "Now," said the wolf, his eyes gleaming, "squeeze it." Chapter 6. The Giant's End and the Brothers' Return. Boots pressed the egg gently. Far away, in his forest, the giant screamed as though pierced by a sword. "Squeeze again," said the wolf. Boots did so, a little harder. The giant's cry rose to a howl of agony. Even at that distance, his voice begged and pleaded. "Spare me," he shrieked. "Do not break my heart entirely. I will do anything you wish." "Tell him," the wolf whispered, "that you will spare him only if he restores your 6 brothers and their brides to life, as they were before he turned them to stone." Boots spoke the words. Though the giant could not see him, he heard the condition well enough. Desperate to save himself, he agreed. On the hillside beside the giant's house, stone softened into flesh. The 6 princes blinked and breathed again, shocked to find themselves standing where moments before They had known only darkness and stillness. Their brides, too, returned to life, beauty blooming again in their cheeks. "Now," said the wolf, "finish it. Crush the egg completely." Boots, with steady hands, squeezed the egg until it burst. At that same instant, the giant's body, wherever it strode, fell apart as if made of dust and vanished from the world. The threat that had hung over the kingdom and its sons was gone. Boots and the wolf returned swiftly across lake and land to the giant's house. There, their brothers greeted Boots with astonishment and joy, hardly able to believe that the quiet youngest, who had once been left at home like a child, had rescued them from stone and slain so mighty a foe. Boots went into the hill to fetch the princess who had risked her life to help him. She came gladly, no longer a prisoner. All together, the 7 princes and their brides, with the wolf trotting proudly ahead, they set out for home. Chapter 7. Feast Without Ending. When they drew near the king's castle, messengers ran ahead to tell the news. The old king, who had almost worn out his eyes looking down the road, now saw not one son returning, but 7, each with a bride beside him. He wept as he embraced them, his heart almost too full to bear. Because the giant's spell had frozen time as well as flesh, the princes and princesses looked just as they had on the day they had been changed to stone. The bride's dresses were fresh, the horses strong. A great wedding feast was proclaimed to celebrate not only their safe return, but their marriages. Folk came from 7 kingdoms, bringing gifts and music and stories. Tables were set in the palace and out across the courtyards, laden with food and drink. When the king looked upon the brides, he smiled. "All are fair," he said, "but the loveliest of all is the bride of Boots." He had learned, as we do, that the worth of a man is not measured by the fineness of his clothes or the height of his horse, but by the courage and kindness he carries within his heart. So Boots and his princess sat at the highest place at the table, side by side. The raven watched from a beam, the salmon swam in the moat, and the wolf slept contentedly in the courtyard, each remembered and well fed. The feast lasted so long that some say it has never truly ended, but goes on in song and memory, wherever this story is told. Closing reflection. Where the heart truly lies, the tale of the giant with no heart in his body turns on a question as old as stories themselves. Where do we keep what matters most? The giant hides his heart far away, locked inside layer after layer, a church on an island, a well in the church, a duck in the well, an egg in the duck. He believes that by placing his heart beyond all reach, he can never be hurt. Yet this very fear makes him cruel, and in the end, the distance between his heart and his life becomes his undoing. Boots, the youngest son, begins with no such protections. He has little to his name, a worn-out horse, a small bundle of food, and a heart that answers when others are in need. He shares his bread with a raven, saves a stranded fish, gives up his only means of travel to a starving wolf. It is these open-handed acts that create the path to his brother's salvation. When his utmost need arrives, help comes not from weapons or wealth, but from those he cared for when he himself had little. So the story whispers 2 lessons at once. Guarding your heart too fiercely, hiding it away so that nothing can touch it, may keep you from pain for a time, but it can also turn you stone cold and alone. On the other hand, a heart that is willing to risk kindness may be wounded, yet it draws allies and grace to itself in ways that no giant can quite understand. As you drift toward sleep, you might quietly ask yourself, where do I keep my own heart? Is it buried far off, safe but lonely? Or is it carried openly, ready to share bread with strangers on the road? Stories like this do not demand an answer, but they offer a gentle invitation to trust that, in the end, it is the open heart that finds its way home, brings others back with it, and sits in joy at the feast. This is your narrator, Ali, thanking you for listening and wishing you a night of deep rest, brave dreams, and a heart that knows both how to feel and how to find its way. For more stories that can help you relax, don't forget to like and subscribe.